Alliance Talk, Inclusive Governance for Sustainable Urban Climate Solutions. Please welcome to the stage Isabell Kempf from UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session on inclusive governance for learning-based urban climate action. I think it's quite a mouthful, but basically what this session is about to see what kind of participatory and inclusive processes are there in cities, because cities are hosting more than 50% of the global population at the moment, and they're also accounting for over 70% of our carbon emissions. So really one way of making sure that climate action is effective is working with cities. And we have this really important global network called the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities, with over 350 cities around the world. And we would like to use examples from these cities around the world on how have different communities, cities, how have they been able to, confront climate mitigation, climate adaptation, what are good examples from across the world. And I would also like to share my own experience as a citizen. I was a citizen in Bonn, and Bonn had a very important climate assembly. It was organized by Bonn for Future. It's an NGO which resembles different organizations in the city. And they did a lottery, actually, of citizens. And by chance, I was one of the people in the lottery, and I participated in a 3-month process where over 3 weekends, all the different associations, the car association, the bikers, disabled citizen, migrant citizen. I mean, they all came together, and we were like 200 of us. And in a place like this, it was actually in an old theater. And over 3 weekends, we discussed, what's the city we want? What do we need to do to get to the city we want, and what is our vision for Bonn to make Bonn climate neutral in 2030? And I have to say, it was a wonderful experience for me, because it feels differently if you've been part of such a process, because you feel you own. This is your city, and you own whatever then being given to the mayor, and the mayor, she then took it on, and as part of the local parliament, it was then adopted as part of the local governance structure on climate change. So it was a really, for me, a very, very satisfying experience, and I'm very happy that today we have also people from real-life politics and action, and I'm really honored to be joined in this panel by Katharina Fegebank, the Vice Mayor and Senator for the Ministry of Environment, Climate, Energy and Agriculture, the City of Hamburg. And the City of Hamburg is a UNESCO Learning City. And I see also the Learning City team is here with us. They're very good partners of UNESCO here in Hamburg. So Mrs. Fegebank, very happy to have you as one of our panelists. Welcome. Hello. Yeah. Then we have Mr. Poon Thiengburananthum. I was practicing, Mr. Poon, who is the Deputy Director of the Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research and Innovation from Thailand. Very welcome. And then we have Professor Knieling. He's a professor for urban planning from the HafenCity University in Hamburg, and a member of the Cluster for Excellence, Climate Change and Society here in Germany. Very well welcome. So we really would like to hear not only from our panelists, but also from all of you here in the room. And we have also 2 interventions from the floor, one from our youth representative from Vietnam, and also from our colleagues from the World Future Council, who have a new CEO. It's not called director anymore, CEO, so we're looking forward to hear from you in a moment. So I would like to really, like all of us, to reflect on the question, do we really think that learning-based governance can become a breakthrough in accelerating climate action. And to begin this discussion, I would like to ask our speakers on the panel, so how can we break down barriers between sectors and get citizens really engaged in climate action? So what is your experience? And I would like to start with Mrs. Katharina Fegebank, because the city of Hamburg has joined the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities in 2019, and is one of the leading cities in the network when it comes to education for sustainable development, because in Hamburg, the team of the Learning Cities is actually based in your new ministry. and we see that this is a city which has a very strong private sector, is a commercial city, but there is also a very strong research base. The city of, the city of Hamburg, the university, the different institutions here are very strong. So how do you see the role of the city council to support a well-coordinated and systemic approach to foster new alliances for climate action and sustainable development?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for having me on this panel. It's a great pleasure and great to see so many people from all over the world here in Hamburg discussing how to make our lives better for everyone on this planet. And as you rightly said in your introductory speech, it's the cities where in about 15 to 20 years of time, 2/3 of the entire population will live. So we have a responsibility. We not only cause the problems we are facing in terms of climate change, we are also really convinced that we can be the problem solvers. And one aspect is really to bring all players and actors together to work on a common future. And what we did is that we start at a very early stage with our programs on sustainable development, education for sustainable development, starting off in schools and universities, and find people in charge and responsible for that to create an awareness for the grand challenges of mankind. And of course, climate change is one of the biggest challenge, together with biodiversity, and start really from a very, very early stage and do it on a very systematical basis. So this is one strand. And you just mentioned, I've been the Minister of Science and Research for 10 years, and with the elections, I've just changed the ministry. So I now look at it from the perspective of environmental protection and climate protection and protection of nature. And I'm very proud to say that especially Hamburg and the metropolis region have really developed into a vibrant hub of science and research, climate research in particular. We have just gained for the 4th time our cluster of excellence in the field of climate research. And we not only do basic research, we are also hooked with the research organizations that try to bring everything into the society, with the Climate Service Center, for instance, where the facts from the science are being turned into practical applications and applied science on the other hand. So you have those two tracks. You have education from a very early stage. You have excellent science and research, and in combination with civil society and the business sector. I mean, we are in the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is very ambitious with its goals to achieve our climate CO2 emission reduction goals, and our public companies as well. So we have a whole strategy being as a learning city, including everyone. And on our last point, in our current coalition treaty, we have an aspect of participation of citizens. We want to have like councils for children and young people, for the youth, so they have a better possibility to give their opinions and to shape the city we live in. And of course, what you just mentioned from Bonn, we also want to try what the benefits are if you select people randomly to let them shape their city, because usually when you ask people to participate, like not only in conferences like this, but in other activities, it's usually the same type of people you get activated. People who have time, maybe I can tell it here, in Germany, in Hamburg, it's usually older men, 60 onwards, relatively well off, with no migratory background. So you have a very homogeneous group of people shaping and creating your personal environment. And we want to break that off and integrate more people with it.
Yeah, thank you. I really hope that there will be another lottery. Thank you very much, Mr. Fegebank and Mrs. Fegebank. I think it's really interesting, and I can really say that the lottery I thought was very useful because you really got a very wide range of people who would not have participated. And I really thought also to target specific groups like disabled people who had mobility issues in the public spaces. Youth representatives, etc., was really, the elderly as well, was very enriching to meet people you would not otherwise meet in such discussions. So I can highly encourage you to do something similar here, and I look forward to it. Mr. Poon, the concept of learning cities is very much embedded in Thailand. We see a very strong network of learning cities there. Right. We have over 10 member cities of the UNESCO Global Network. And at the same time, many cities in Thailand are affected by climate change, by floodings. So how do you see the role of, in your own professional role, right? How can you see kind of examples of local and national alliances amongst cities, amongst communities, and how have those alliances helped to address climate issues in Thailand?
Thank you. Thanks for the question. Learning cities we see as the infrastructures from the new generation, even to this generation. But when we discuss about the climate change, it's very serious because the climate change issue is difficult to challenge for the communication. It's not like many decades ago that we achieved to communication in terms of the problem of the ozone, right? But when we discuss about the climate change, it's more complicated. So the learning city help us is one or two things. The first thing first is let them, all of us, see climate change as one common goal. So we allow that communicator, especially the city leader, to lead the operation, to lead the meaningful of the climate change, not just only the academic only, but how we communicate them in terms of we can learn about the situation and we can earn of them. Because not just only in terms of the climate mitigation, but this private sector already interest, but also climate adaptation, but city leader and also the local actor have to be understand also. So the first thing first is we set common goal between different stakeholders. Secondly, we have to set the common ground also. How each city really impact in terms of the climate issue. For example, in the southern part of Thailand, we approach the flooding issue. Or in the northern of Thailand, we approach the PM 2.5 or the air pollution issue. So we have to relevance this kind of the tangible communication to each of them. So we have to establish common ground together. And then we promote the common action, learn to earn action. Some of the problem that we have in the past is because we have different sector, some of them has already passed the first step of the Maslow. Many of them haven't passed it yet. So each of sector have a different interest. So we have to target communication. And the last is we have to find the common learnings among the city, how we learn and earn together. Earn is this way is not just financial earn, but also how we earn the heritage, how we earn our heart and soul back to our city. So city is one thing that helps us to communicate much better than national level or much better than very family level. So how we see us as a whole is a very tangible things. So that's this. Luckily we use and participation with the UNESCO policy, and we use this kind of framework to promote learning ecologies for them. So not just communication, but how we learn, especially the climate change is not, right now it's much easier, but many decades ago I tried to communicate and people say, what? It's very difficult for them to realization what is going on in the future. But right now, situation is changed. We have to predict, use the science and use the experience and use the evidence to predict that if we don't do this, what's going to be happen to you and your next generation. So we come together as the critical mass to communication. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Poon. I think what you said is interesting, not only that cities come together and learn from each other, but there's also intergenerational learning, because also the cost of inaction on climate is very high, maybe not for our generation, but for the next generation. Even for ours, it's already very high. But I think there is also this communication towards the next generation, and that next generation is not necessarily sitting on the table at the moment, right? So I think that's a very interesting point. And I would also like to say that here our colleague Edith and Raoul are here. They're coordinating everything having to do with sustainability and climate action. And we're at the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning here based in Hamburg. We're running a series of webinars at the moment also on sustainability, climate action and environment. And we're very happy that Thailand, but also the city of Hamburg, Ralph is here from also the Ministry for Sustainability in Hamburg, that there is a whole kind of network where people start to know each other and exchange, and when you kind of have an interesting learning that you share it not only within your country but also across countries. So I think that makes the network very valuable. So thanks for giving that example.
Thank you.
Professor Knieling, the previous speakers have shared some policy-oriented and practical experiences in building alliances of different sectors for climate solution and actions. Based on your background in urban planning and regional development, and your involvement in the cluster of excellence, climatic change and society, what kind of research and education and learning do you think we need to achieve a real game changer or breakthrough in climate action?
Yeah, thanks very much for the question, and thanks very much also for having me here in the panel. Yeah, I would like to share some results from our research with you. And as Mrs. Fegebank already mentioned, this is research that happened in the cluster of excellence here in Hamburg, one of the clusters that is on climate issues, climate mitigation and climate adaptation. And one project in this cluster is the project Water from Four Sides. So that deals with the question of water in cities and how this changes in the future with the background of climate change. And we were a lot working together with different disciplines in our cluster project, and very early noticed how difficult it is to understand each other. Natural scientists, social scientists, also included participants or partners from different administrative bodies. So we asked ourselves, how can we find solutions for the future in this field of water from four sides that bring together this interdisciplinary team and make it possible to collaborate, to work together, which is really a huge effort. And one tool I would like to share with you is the tool of narrative images. So we developed these narrative images as a learning approach. So in 3 scenarios, we developed in a participatory process, we professionally visualized those images for the future. There are different possibilities to deal with climate adaptation in the field of water and with climate adaptation at all. This is on one hand just coping with the issues we are facing. That is on the other hand incremental adaptation, so slowly small steps forward to cope with the climate issues. Or it is transformative adaptation. So really to make a big step forward, to change routines, to change cultures. And we think that narrative images have the potential to really make a breakthrough in the direction of this transformative adaptation. They visualize how future could be, and they very directly give an idea how far we need to go. And I would like to underline the process is important. It's not only on pictures and visualizations, it's on the collaboration. And it's a bit what you said in your introducing words when you were in Bonn in the citizen panel, that you said, wow, that was an experience. And we were working together on the issue. And that is the same with the narrative images. If the stakeholders work together in a process like this, we would hope that they are keen enough to make bigger steps forward. And that is necessary for climate adaptation as well as for climate mitigation. So far, an insight into research in the Excellence Cluster CLICS at the Hamburg University and the partner universities.
Thank you so much, Professor Knieling. I think it's really interesting to see that also science, for many years we have been trying to work in an interdisciplinary manner to learn from each other. I have been in a lot of interdisciplinary initiatives on bringing development and environment together, and I know how difficult it is sometimes for people to understand each other's language, because people think when you reduce poverty you cannot at the same time look after the environment, but basically it's the environment that gives the livelihoods for many of the poor populations in the world. And if you destroy the environment, the livelihood is also being destroyed. So I think it actually, goes together, but it's not win-win all the time. In all places. So I think also one has to be honest about it, because I remember when I was working on green economy, a lot of the time the narrative was it's always win-win, right? So green energy will be win-win all the time for everyone. No, there are also social aspects and social inequalities that you have to take into account to make it a win-win. So I think it can be a win-win, but you have to be really very careful in bringing different actors together and also the voices of the people. So talking about the voices of the people, I would like to ask our youth representative here from Vietnam, Mrs. Lee Tran. She's in the audience, just to share with us a little bit her kind of first-hand experience in how you address climate change and water issues in your own community in Vietnam, especially in the Mekong Delta. Welcome.
Okay, so thank you. I'm Lee, I'm from Vietnam, so I'm honored to speak, to share your experience about youth, about me as youth working with Asia Climate Lab, where we believe young people can lead climate action through creativity and collaboration. So growing up in Vietnam, I've seen firsthand how climate change impact our life. So in the north, like cities in Hanoi, are seeing heavy rainfall and flooding every year. Just last year, Hanoi was hit hard by Typhoon Yagi. If you saw the news, on the south, we are the Mekong Delta, where much of our rice grow from. They are suffering from salinity, intrusion, drought, and land subsidence. And these issues are deeply affecting our food, our families, and also our futures. But what is really frustrating for me is that even though these issues are affecting our generation the most, but mostly many decisions on climate change still happen with us. So in my countries and I think in other countries too, youth are often talked about, but not really meaningful look included in the design of implementation or in the design or implementation of climate solutions. Engagement tends to be like symbolic, like panels or poster or some like awareness campaigns. But for young people like me, I think we need a space that we can co-create with the policymaker, or we can bring our idea into the table. So I have an initiative I'm working with that is Asia Climate Lab, where we can create that environment, that space for youth. So, for example, we have a project called Asia Raincraft, so where we use the game that's called Minecraft to as a tool. So the youth can like join that. Like this tool can help, the games can help youth in the cities like Hanoi imagine the flood resilient neighborhoods. They can also like contribute to the co-creation by building their own cities inside the game. Also, like through their creativity, they design solutions into real urban water and climate challenges like flood or drainage problems. And the best part is like the ideas can be also proposed to like the local policymakers, so they can consider to include that in their plans for the challenge too. So I think it's just not about the game. It's not just, that initiative is not just about gaming. It's like we are turning our ideas, like our creativity, our ideas into real problem, into real solutions. And this initiative can show that learning can be fun, can be interactive, and can be connected to the real challenges. And also, this approach makes the learning more engaging and accessible, and it shows like young people don't just want to talk about the challenge; they want to show them. And the last one I want to talk that a statement like learning cities can be the place where youth ideas don't just stay ideas, but shape real climate action. And I believe that we are ready to take that lead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I think we've seen that there is a lot of potential within learning cities. There is a lot of potential also in partnerships across cities, and we would like to talk a little bit more about these partnerships now. As we saw, the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities has been supporting members in promoting lifelong learning for sustainable development. We have the webinar series. Last year we had an international conference where really, I think, 700 different participants from learning cities around the world, also our Hamburg colleagues, where they really exchanged what are they doing on climate change, what can we learn from each other, what has worked, what has not worked. And it was really, really interesting. I found some of the panels really fascinating because you hear from very small cities and then from these mega cities, like Bangkok is, for example, also one of our cities. So very, very different sizes and different ideas, but I think we can learn a lot. And my question to the panelists is now a little bit more about how can cities partner to promote lifelong learning and address climate issues through learning, through public spaces, through debate? How can we come from the learning and the learning community to collective action? Because I think climate change, we all feel it. I cannot do it by myself. I need my neighbors and my city and my country and the global, sisters and brothers for this. So how can we have these national, international alliances, but also within the city collaboration? What are examples of within the cities? And I would like to start this time with Professor Knieling, to let us know a little bit how are international city networks relevant to your work, and how can they support excellence in climate research? How can they be used in this nexus between research and action at the local level? What kind of international alliances is the Cluster of Excellence in Hamburg involved in? Can you tell us a bit more?
Yeah, thanks very much. Actually, this question of international city networks and city cooperation is really very essential, I would say, looking from the point of view of cities. Because in the last years, on one hand, the Cluster of Excellency is a good example. It has included a great number of cities worldwide as case examples where researchers have put their focus on and looked what happened there, what were the solutions that can be transferred into other cities. That's Hamburg on one hand, that we looked what is interesting for Hamburg, but it's also the exchange with the cities worldwide. It's not only focused on Hamburg, there's really a building up of a sort of network of, I would say, good solutions, maybe excellence for climate-related solutions. Besides these efforts that come from the German research funding, what has been very productive in the last years has been the European research funding. The European Horizon funding allowed, on one hand, that cities came together in research consortia, so it was quite an applied research where cities came together with researchers. And on the other side, it was open for partners outside Europe. So we, in those projects where many of our colleagues here in the room have been included, cities from somewhere, from other continents have been partners. And again, the question always is, where can we find good solutions and how can we include and transfer them, in this case, to the European cities? And Horizon had one additional incentive. It included money for implementation. So it was not only research, it was also for the partnering cities, money available for implementation. And that is certainly a great situation because the city partners and all of you who are from cities know that research sometimes is time-consuming and you are wondering, is it really worthwhile to take part in a research project? But if you know that there is money for implementing something, that is another situation. Like for here in Hamburg, for example, the quite famous example of 1/4 of Hamburg, Ottensen, where a car-free area was discussed, that has been a result from a European research project that was initialized by this research project. And you can see the discourse or the also conflict about it in the city has been very lively. But the idea came from this international project on car-free mobility in cities. So that's a good example to show how research can really have an impact and how necessary the networking of cities in research is.
Thank you so much. I think that's a very concrete example. And then now coming from concrete examples that exist to those that may exist in the future. So our dear Vice Mayor, Mrs. Fegebank, we can see here with the Hamburg Sustainability Conference in this beautiful building, which is just next to the Rathaus, of course, that Hamburg is really a city, it's very international, and it can bring many actors together. That's why we're here in the alliance talks. I think it really shows that, you know, we just had two countries signing something on health and, you know, and in an African Europe context. There were many before us also. We were here listening to some of the alliances. Based on your role, you know, your former role as Senator for Science and Research in Hamburg, and now in your new role as Senator for the Environment and Climate, you know, why is it so important for your city to be part of such international networks? And what can other cities learn from Hamburg, you think?
I mean, it's an obvious answer because it's so fantastic to have this learning experience. I think it was fantastic to be here and to be part of panels and just to listen to people, delegations, the science, politicians, administrative people from all over, and really see on the one hand what kind of fantastic, vibrant ideas they are, not only to connect, but also really to tackle our grand challenges. And on the other hand, to also see how they struggle. And I think it's the same thing we are doing in Germany and even in Hamburg at the moment, talking about climate change, talking about sustainability. My observation is due to the current times, wars, conflicts everywhere, people tend to push those things aside and don't see them as top agenda topics anymore. And we have to bring it back. I had a fantastic meeting with a minister from St. Kitts and Nevis early on today. And she said, climate protection is a bread and butter topic. And it's not just a nice to have. And that's exactly what it is. And I'm so amazed by all the contributions from people, from countries who are suffering maybe actually much more from the effects of climate change than we do currently, because we do have the money, we do have the funds to adapt to all the things threatening our life. But if you talk to people coming from small islands, totally surrounded by water, having rising seawater levels, you feel the threat so immediately once you're in the room with the people. And I think without scaring people, because once you scare people, they say, no, I don't want to have anything to do with it. But finding solutions, talking about innovation, talking about new technical devices to cope, to adapt, and to fight climate change. I think this is the way to go about it. And what I liked to talk to people who said that from conferences like this, there is a spark of hope going out, so that we are not at an end, but that's the beginning of something new. And this is why we need those platforms. We need the very intense cooperation on a midterm and long-term basis between countries, between cities, between universities, research institutions, educational institutions, of course between the private sector, the huge companies, corporations who have to think in a competitive framework and who often have solutions in place before politics even think about it. We always think the other way around, but especially in Hamburg, we have fantastic foundations and big players who are very advanced when it comes to climate change adaptation, but also solutions to fight climate change, fostering startups and so on. And I think bringing best practice together, bringing the people together who really want to work on our common future so we can still live on this planet in 30, 40, 50 years for our kids and grandchildren. This is what makes it so nice to have conferences like this.
Thank you so much. I think it's very encouraging that we hopefully come out of here not only with ideas, but also that with the joint actions to make them a reality. And I would like to ask also Mrs. Poon a little bit, how do you see the alliances that you have established in the Asia-Pacific region and through the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities? What can other cities and regions learn from your experience as working in a big network?
Mm-hmm. Well, to relate with the issue of the climate change, I think first thing first is I think UNESCO done quite a good job to make sure that we not just link in terms of the issue, but we link in terms of how we learn to each other. So this network allows us for the city to learn to each other. So as I mentioned, the challenging part of climate change is not just a good idea, but how we action. It's like an addict to the chocolate, addict to alcohols or the other dopamine issue. Climate change is the hard as this addiction syndrome or something like that. So we need a common goal among the learning city that enlighten how the climate change is very serious for each city. So the first thing first, I looking forward to use this kind of network to challenge about the learning process, not just only one city. We might have different cities, many cities, but we only have one world, one global that we cannot escape yet. So that is very critical issue. First thing first. Secondly, rather than we we learn in terms of the among the cities. We learn inside the city in the nation also. So we're looking forward to exchange the informations and allow this participation and allow the other outcoming as the learning space. So the climate change is not just only the political issue also, but it's also tangible. So I believe that Learning City is the means for different kind of the leader or the people would like their citizens to learn and put forward their agenda. So one agenda that we are very serious about to provide the learning's capability to the next generation is the climate change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Poon. And I would like now to also ask Mr. Neshan Gunasekura to come up here. Because we would like to also talk about ways of recognizing actions by cities and communities on climate. And for example, the UNESCO Learning City Award is a way of recognizing outstanding work by learning cities on their learning environment, in involving citizens, in creating spaces for learning and climate action. So they have been just given last year in December. But the World Future Council is also providing an award, and you might want to say a little bit more about this one, please.
Thank you very much, Isabel, for the kind invitation and for the partnership that we have with the UNESCO Lifelong Learning Institute here in Hamburg. Yes, in fact, a long history by way of anecdote goes back to the consultations that led to the founding of the World Future Council as a close relationship with UNESCO in the declaration of our duties towards current and future generations, which came out in 1997. We've had a long track record of recognizing solutions and policy solutions, beginning in 2009 with food security and going through a number of topics on such as environmental protection, youth and children, and toxicities and toys that has toxicity, to last year recognizing peace and future generations. This year, we'll be focusing on living in harmony with nature and future generations, which is also at the heart of the work we do. What is our duties towards future generations, which was coming up in the panel several times. And as way of announcing, we have such a pleasure to announce alongside UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning, the award for 2027 will look at education for sustainable development, both at cities, but also at communities, because there's a lot of learning in both these levels. So thank you very much, and we're looking forward to having all of your support in this journey. Thank you
so much. Thank you. Yeah, and before closing and thanking our wonderful panelists, I would also like to announce that the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities is currently accepting new applications from future learning cities who want to work on sustainable development, peace, and of course climate action in their cities. And the deadline is the 15th of June. So if you come from a city that's not yet a learning city and you're now convinced that it's really worth joining the Alliance, please go to our website, have a look, and we really welcome new members from all around the world, because we believe that working together and learning how to be together also is a really challenge in our times, and we need more kind of solidarity and cooperation and not more walls and terrors. So I think this is a really wonderful opportunity to join the network. And I would really like to thank my three panelists, because I think you all have given and testified to, ways of working together across research topics with different actors, including the private sector here in Hamburg and also in Thailand, across the region. So I think these are really very strong experiences of cooperation, of international cooperation. So thank you so much. And with this, the time is up, and thank you to the audience for your patience. Yes, thank you.